Let us pray. As Canadians and as Albertans, we give thanks for the precious gifts of freedom and peace which we enjoy. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we rededicate ourselves to the valued traditions of parliamentary democracy as a means of serving our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Reading of petitions. Member for West Yellowhead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I tabled a petition yesterday on behalf of the concerned citizens of Pearson area. Could we have that read today?
Petition to the Legislative Assembly of Alberta. Now that Special Condition 12 is removed, contrary to the support of the majority of residents of Pearson area, we, the undersigned, urge you to assign the timber quotas to the bidder who will maintain manufacturing jobs in Pearce and create the most economic benefits for our community. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Honorable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to file 4 copies of a letter which I recently wrote to the chairman of the Member Services Committee regarding the assessment of members' remuneration and allowances.
Minister of Transportation Utilities.
I'm pleased to file 4 copies of the news releases and the brochures that deal with the official opening ceremonies of the Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway 16 that begin tomorrow in the morning from Lloydminster, and we'll be traveling to Jasper. The highway twinning was actually completed last fall, and the ceremonies will be the next couple of days, and we have provided copies for every member of the Assembly.
Minister of the Environment.
Speaker, gives me pleasure today to table with the Assembly the Surface Reclamation Fund Annual Report.
Additional tablings. Thank you.
Introduction of special guests.
Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, followed by the member for Drumheller.
Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly Mr. Jim Corlett of Portland, Oregon, who is the Executive Director of the Western States Forestry Legislative Task Force. The task force is made up of legislators from 5 western states and Alberta and British Columbia. Mr. Corlett is visiting Alberta and touring some of our fine forest industries. He's seated in the members' gallery, and I'd like him to rise and receive the warm welcome of the members of the Assembly.
Member for Drumheller, followed by the member.
Mr. Speaker, the Alberta Legislative Intern Program started in the fall of 1974. The purpose of this program is to provide university graduates with an opportunity to experience firsthand functioning of Alberta's Parliament, and at the same time to provide members with exceptionally competent assistance in research and in work for constituents. Petro-Canada and Canadian Airlines International have donated money and airfare to enhance the travel portion of the program, which includes visiting the Northwest Territories, Quebec, and the House of Commons. Seated in your gallery, Mr. Speaker, today are this year's legislative interns: Jason Foster, Laurie McKay, Greg Moffat, and Mark Patton, and representatives from Petro-Canada and Canadian Airlines International. Judy Wish, Director of Public Affairs Products Division, Petro-Canada, and Dennis Erickson, Manager of Community Relations for Canadian Airlines, are also present. I would ask them to rise and receive the cordial welcome of the Assembly.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Speaker, I'm very pleased today to introduce in the public gallery two people from the constituency of Lethbridge West, Mr. Speaker. The first one, Dr. Ernest Martin, who taught English at the University of Lethbridge for some 13 years. However, he's probably noted more for the 5 publications he's published over the years with regard to Alberta politics. With him, Mr. Speaker, is his son, Austin Martin, who many members will recall received a senatorial medal from the U.S. Senate for his long, arduous trip by foot to the Antarctica. Mr. Speaker, they're seated in the public gallery, and I'd ask both the Martins to rise and receive welcome from this assembly.
Round 2.
Thank you, sir. I have a second group. Alberta, Mr. Speaker, is well served by the boards of governors of our 27 board-governed institutions, and in the public gallery today, we have representation, Mr. Speaker, from perhaps the finest undergraduate liberal arts institution in Canada. We have with us the chairman of the Board of Governors of Lethbridge University, Mr. David Hughes, and along with him, Mr. Speaker, is the president of the U of L, Dr. Howard Tennant, as well as the first vice president, academic Dr. Seamus O'Shea. Mr. Speaker, they also are seated in the public gallery, and I'd ask them to rise and be welcomed by the House.
Minister of Career Development and Employment.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure today to introduce to you and members of the Assembly 2 distinguished visitors from the city of Fort McMurray. The first, Mr. Speaker, being no stranger to the Assembly, Her Worship the Mayor Betty Collicutt, and the second accompanying her is our new city manager, Mr. Glenn Lovenstein. Mr. Speaker, the city of Fort McMurray is located in the far north and the largest urban center, as well as the home of the tar sands. They're seated in the first row of the members' gallery. I would ask that they rise to receive the cordial welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Calder. Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 42 students from St. Lucy's School, located in the constituency of Edmonton Calder. They are accompanied by their teachers, Mrs. Dennis Zubko and Dale Dvorak. And this school is very proud of the fact that they are the 53rd school in Canada to achieve the Green School designation with the Seeds Foundation. Some of them are sitting in the members' gallery and some in the public gallery, and I would ask they rise and receive the warm welcome from the Assembly.
Member for Little Bow, followed by West Yellow.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to introduce to you and through you the Director for the Alberta Cattle Commission, who's here with us today from the constituency of Little Bow. Although Mr. Glenn Logan in the members gallery is probably here on official business, I would like to remind him that we had snow here in Edmonton today, and down home it's still blowing dirt, and I remind you to please try to take some moisture back with you to the farmers in parts of southern Alberta. Would you please rise and receive the welcome from the Assembly?
West Yellowhead, followed by Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Legislative Assembly 53 fine students from Vanier Community Catholic School in Edson, in the beautiful riding of West Yellowhead, as most members will see as they travel at the opening of the Yellowhead. They have teachers present are Miss Downey, Mr. John Campbell, parents are Mrs. Hierath, Mrs. Conley, Mrs. Gaucher, Mrs. McGonigal, Mrs. Gray, Mrs. Parker, Mrs. Delorme, and Mrs. Ludwig. I'll ask them to stand and receive the warm welcome of the Legislative Assembly.
Stony Plain.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly 24 grade 8 students from Woodhaven School in the city of Spruce Grove, which is located within the Stony Plain constituency. They are accompanied by 3 teachers, Mr. Paul Watson, Mr. Rick, and Mr. Rudy Arkela. They are seated in the members' gallery, and I'd ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
The opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this government has failed Alberta in many ways. Poor fiscal management, patronage run rampant, and a lack of priorities. But perhaps, Mr. Speaker, the worst failure is what has happened in rural Alberta since 1986. The Premier tells us that he loves rural Alberta, Mr. Speaker. He has a lot less to love since he came to power, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
The recently released 1991 census shows a consistent pattern of rural depopulation. Some 60% of our rural municipalities lost population, and over two-thirds of Alberta's villages lost people. 88% of the population growth within the two census divisions containing Metro Edmonton and Metro Calgary. That's the legacy of the government, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Premier is this. How does the Premier justify these very disturbing statistics showing much of rural Alberta in deep trouble?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is right that there has been a move from rural areas to urban areas, and it's been going on for decades now. And we are trying to the best of our ability to work to make sure that opportunities are provided all across the province, not just in the larger urban areas. I think, Mr. Speaker, when you consider this government's commitment to agriculture, to our smaller communities, to providing transportation infrastructure, to continue to try and decentralize the government's operations, and to help to build rural Alberta and our smaller communities, Mr. Speaker, we have in this province the healthiest of any part of Western Canada, the healthiest rural areas in Western Canada.
Mr. Speaker, that's rhetoric. The stats show the problem for what it is, Mr. Speaker. To the Premier, ID19, the Peace Country, population down 14.9%. County of Minburn down 10.4%. County of Two Hills down 10.1%. It's right across the province in most parts of the province, Mr. Speaker. It's a tragedy of immense proportions. And rather than the rhetoric about loving and all the other things, Mr. Speaker, what specific initiatives is prepared to announce to turn this around? Otherwise, everybody will live in Calgary and Edmonton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I said when I answered the honourable member's first question, there has been a shift from rural to urban areas. But in this province, Mr. Speaker, we have been working hard to prevent that in anywhere near the proportions that it has been carried out in other provinces. And point out to the honourable member the $2.5 billion Farm Credit Stability Program, our policy of paving secondary highways, our policy of decentralization. We have a minister recently appointed, rural development, minister responsible for rural development. We are helping to provide opportunities throughout our smaller communities. We have helped through the Minister of Economic Development and Trade with the support for economic development officers in communities all across our province. This is not something that's easy to accomplish because it's a fact of life all across our country. But we're going to keep working at it, Mr. Speaker. And frankly, I think as we see greater and greater breakthroughs in technology, that you will find the attractions of the Alberta countryside become so pervasive, and you will no longer need to live in larger and larger communities or work together in large buildings, but you will find people starting to once again move from the larger urban areas where there is crime and traffic and other problems, once again recognizing the attractions of the smaller communities.
I have no argument with that, but when you're going to clear-cut all of northern Alberta, that's not exactly doing it, Mr. Speaker. And the Premier alludes to the Farm Credit Stability Program. Yes, it was a good program that we announced first and tried to push forward, Mr. Speaker. Now you've cut back on it, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
And having extra cabinet ministers is not really solving the problem, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here.
But let me give a specific to the Premier. Instead of ad hoc loans, Mr. Speaker, to failing companies, would the Premier look at some new programs, and for specifically the Community Bonds Program that's had some success in Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker?
Next question. Mr. Speaker, it's right. We have discussed community bonds initiatives, discussed them with other Western premiers at times, and perhaps it may even come up at our Western Premiers Conference that we'll be having this week. But it has not worked. That program has not worked without problems. And so the Minister of Rural Development, responsible for rural development, is looking to see whether we can bring that initiative to our province, but do it in a way that we can deliver it as effectively as possible. And I point out to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, these are not ad hoc programs that the government has been promoting in rural Alberta and our smaller communities. These are programs of decentralization, diversification, opportunities, so that our young people will be able to stay in their own homes with their families and be able to build their communities. Certainly our support for projects around this province is another perfect example of that.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
When I was talking to the Premier, I was talking about the ad hoc loans to failing companies that his minister over there has handed out over billions. But that's my question, Mr. Speaker. This rural exodus should come as no surprise when you look at the government's record on issues like the bench insurance fiasco, which affects it, Mr. Speaker. On May the 8th, the Minister of Economic Development told the Assembly that he would inquire as to the amount of money outstanding on Alberta Opportunity Company loan to bench insurance, Mr. Speaker. Now, I believe the minister has said privately that AOC was owed some $17,000 when bench was closed down. But for the record, to the Minister of Economic Development, will the minister now confirm for the House that in fact the $80,000 AOC loan, bench insurance still owes the government $17,000 roughly?
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated to the honourable member who put the question to me some days ago, and I responded to him on that same day by way of a note indicating that there, yes, was still an outstanding balance of $17,000 on a $80,000 loan that was advanced in 1987.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, that means then that we seem to have a situation where some $63,000 in money collected fraudulently from policyholders was used to repay the loan from taxpayers, Mr. Speaker. That means, Mr. Speaker, frankly, the government is holding the proceeds of a fraud.
That's right.
And my question to the Minister of Economic Development is, will the minister now undertake to have AOC investigate the possibility of returning this money to the policyholders?
Good idea.
Mr. Speaker, not for one moment do I agree with the assumption by the leader of the New Democratic Party. He suggests that there has been some illegality. Until we have had that rule by the courts, I think it's a very unfair assumption of the leader of the New Democratic Party, but we also recognize that unfair assumptions are not uncommon to the honourable member.
Farmers is unfair.
This minister better talk to that minister about what went on, Mr. Speaker. It's a very serious matter with a lot of farmers burned. Instead of him standing up doing that, Mr. Speaker, that's a shameful performance. Now, my question to the Minister of Consumer Affairs, Mr. Speaker, we know that $2.2 million was taken. Well, the Treasurer's got lots of money in a big mouth. Maybe he can put it over there, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, $2.2 million was taken from the pockets of some 400 rural Albertans by bench insurance. This government basically has done nothing. At this point, maybe offered its sympathies. I appreciate that from the minister, but they still are trying to evade responsibility for regulating these kinds of companies. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Consumer Affairs, Will the minister undertake to establish a compensation fund for the victims of bench and ensure that the Minister of Economic Development puts an AOC, puts the money it collected from bench right into this fund, Mr. Speaker? It's not a funny matter.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is entirely inaccurate with respect to his statement that the government has done nothing. In fact, the government, upon finding out about potential breaches in the law, acted as swiftly and as completely as possible, and I'm happy to give the Honourable Leader the chronology of events that have transpired. I should inform the Leader that as of last week, the court has frozen all of the assets of the individual in question with this affair and has appointed an investigator. That investigator will report this Friday, and at that point, those individuals who have claims against the company of bench may begin to file with the court, or if the court appoints a receiver, will have to be in a position to then apply to that receiver. I would state once more, Mr. Speaker, that there are 16,000 agents in this province. The vast majority, like the vast majority of Albertans, who act legally and responsibly. However, there are instances in which the law is broken, and in those instances we move as quickly as possible to make sure the law is upheld and to safeguard the dollars for the individuals involved, as we have in this case.
Glengarry on behalf of the Liberal Party.
Mr. Speaker, a program already exists in Alberta which allows the government to curry political favor from Albertans. The Minister of Lotteries has become the master keeper of that boondoggle. Now a leaked document shows the establishment of the Alberta Recreation Cultural Grant Program, a grant program that will attempt to curry even more favor from Albertans, buy more votes. Mr. Speaker, the program establishes conditions where previously conditions didn't exist. My question is to the Premier. Why is the Premier imposing conditions on local government that will allow for vote buying by the Getty government?
We aren't, Mr. Speaker.
No, let that main raise. He's not going.
Percy, don't tell him what to do.
Well, I'm not surprised that the Premier refuses to answer that question. Not surprised he gave the phony baloney answer that he did. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, in the past, the Premier has been a very strong advocate of asking that, or saying that money should be given to municipalities on an unconditional grant basis. I'd like to know why the Premier is establishing this program. And one of the conditions in that program calls for a minister to approve of any operational grant over $5,000. Why impose these conditions on local governments?
First of all, Mr. Speaker, I have to tell the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party, if he's going to ask a question, he has to listen to the answers. And I felt that my first answer told him that we were not doing the things he was accusing us of. And the Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism, I'm sure, would like to give him even more details.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Brecken Parks, I'm sure, will want to supplement this as well, but this is an important issue. The member for Edmonton-Glengarry, Mr. Speaker, the member for Edmonton-Glengarry is making a wild assumption based on a news release from his colleague from Edmonton-Whitemud that, in fact, a decision has been made. Mr. Speaker, they have released a list of proposals and suggestions. I can, too, draw up a list of suggestions for the Liberal leader, but Mr. Speaker, we are, Mr. Speaker, discussing, or will discuss sometime in the future, the Cultural Recreation Grant Program. But any decision made on what that program will look like has not anywhere near being made. Let me read from a submission from the City of Edmonton. This is the City of Edmonton suggesting to me as an Edmonton MLA what the program should look like. And I'm quoting now, and I'm more than pleased to file this with the Assembly. In the past, both the municipality and community groups have felt that the province of Alberta did not get sufficient credit for this particular grant program. It is intended, I quote further, it is intended that cooperative work would be undertaken to ensure that the provincial body gets the recognition it deserves. This comes under the signature of Jan Reimer.
Thank you. Thank you.
The document shows that the minister was part of the approval process of this whole condition, all these conditions that were set up. Mr. Speaker, we've had government monies go to laundromats. This new program calls for monies to be given to private entrepreneurs. I want the government, the minister's assurance that the government will stay out of the marketplace and not give more monies to laundromats or blah, 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 whatever. Stay out of the marketplace.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Liberal Party tells his convention that he's ready to be the Premier of Alberta. He doesn't even know how the government decisions are made, and he's standing up here saying we've done this. Mr. Speaker, there is a draft proposal that has not even come to government for discussion yet. It has not even come to the government for discussion. It is a proposal from someone's typewriter, and that member calls it a decision. He calls that a decision. Mr. Speaker, perhaps his caucus makes decisions that way, but we do not. When the decision is made, Mr. Speaker, when the decision is made on the CRC program, the entire cabinet will be involved in the discussion, our caucus will be, and we will take information such as presented by the City of Edmonton into consideration. And when the final decision is made, Mr. Speaker, it will be announced by the government, not in the fashion as described by the member from Glengarry.
Calgary Fish Creek.
Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Premier, in his response to the Leader of the Official Opposition's first question today, made reference to the upcoming Western Premiers Conference. I'd like to follow up on that, if I could, Mr. Speaker, with the Premier. Given the serious economic challenges facing all four Western provinces currently, and the continuing and critical need for Senate reform and the continuing problem of Western alienation, the upcoming Western Premiers Conference, I submit, Mr. Speaker, is certainly very timely. I'm wondering, would the Premier be in a position to advise the Assembly as to the agenda matters that he and his Western counterparts will be addressing at Williams Lake later this week?
Mr. Speaker, the Western Premiers Conference commences tomorrow, and this conference, as members would probably know, is hosted on an annual basis by moving from one of the Western provinces to the other. Now, this conference will be hosted by the province of British Columbia. It's unique in one way, Mr. Speaker, in that it starts tomorrow and runs on Thursday at 108 Mile Ranch near Williams Lake, BC, while on Friday it will conclude with a day of meetings in Vancouver. So it is going to operate from two locations in British Columbia. But it is a timely meeting because two of the premiers are new, and one of the important things is I've found in the past to establish a good personal relationship amongst the Western premiers so that we can work cooperatively on those matters that are not just Western problems, but making sure that national issues have a strong Western influence brought on them as well. The agenda subjects are chosen broadly so that we can talk about a variety of matters. The number one item is the economy. Number two is the matter of trade, and the third is the general subject of Western cooperation. Now, under those broad subjects, we'll be able to talk, of course, about diversification, agriculture, transportation, full provincial participation in trade matters, and making sure that we work together in Western Canada. So I'm looking forward to this meeting with a great deal of anticipation.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's apparent from the Premier's comprehensive response that the Western Premiers will have a lot on their collective plate. However, Mr. Speaker, there may be some of our constituents who will question the relevance of the Western Premier's deliberations to the here and now needs of Albertans. Can the Premier outline to the members this afternoon what subject areas or concerns will be given the highest priority by himself and the Alberta delegation?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and I might point out also to the honourable member and to the legislature that such important national issues as free trade, Senate reform, lower interest rates, a rebalancing of the Canadian dollar are all issues that are now being or have been adopted in Canada that have come from Western Premiers' conferences. But our efforts this year, Mr. Speaker, are in a way timely with our discussions on constitutional change, because Alberta will be seeking to continue their efforts to avoid duplication and overlap between federal and provincial governments. Duplication and overlap of services and dollars can only lead to inefficient expenditure of public monies. So we will be hoping to continue the momentum of being able to establish responsibilities that each government should fulfill, and then make sure that the financial resources go with those responsibilities so that we can do the job. As well, Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, a priority will be, with two new premiers, to establish a close working relationship between the four Western premiers, and of course the whole matter of trade and perhaps cooperative efforts where together we can share some trade initiatives beyond our borders and reduce the cost to the people who we represent. So as I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, I think we should have a productive conference, and I'm looking forward to it.
Belmont, followed by Calgary McKnight.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Labour has often stated her preference for the collective bargaining process to take its course without any political interference.
Right.
Her position is one that is respected and supported by working Albertans who, on occasion, find that they may be involved in an industrial dispute. Between August the 1st of 1991 and April the 6th of this year, the Battle River School Board and the teachers spent all of 1 hour and 34 minutes at the negotiation table. And I understand, Mr. Speaker, that as of about an hour or so ago today, the talks that the minister had instructed the two sides to have, those talks broke down. Mr. Speaker, my question to the minister is the minister satisfied that the board has bargained in good faith on this particular matter?
Mr. Speaker, I think what we need to do is distinguish between quantity and quality of bargaining. And as for quantity in this particular dispute, certainly I was of the opinion that much more bargaining needed to be done, which is why I've insisted that the parties go back to the table, and I've provided special mediation in the form of our special representative, Mr. Albertini, and so forth. On a point of fact, my information as of an hour or so ago was that Mr. Albertini was going back into a meeting with the two bargaining teams. I may be interpreting my message differently from the one the honourable member got, but I understood there was still some discussion ongoing. But certainly Mr. Albertini is well aware of the urgency of the matter, and I think he will not delay, if there is no significant progress, to put a recommended terms of settlement before the two parties without more. Now, as for quality of bargaining, I have certainly received no information that would indicate to me that there is any possible interpretation of bad faith bargaining. But in any event, it is not a determination that the Minister of Labour would make. That is a matter for the Labour Relations Board to handle. As I understand it, no party has brought that kind of application before the board as of this date. But certainly, if anybody has any concerns in that regard, I would urge them to take them to the Labor Relations Board, who would ordinarily and properly handle the complaint.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, to the Minister of Labour, elected officials at all levels of government have a certain philosophical or an ideological bent that they or we take with us whenever we go into any kind of meetings. And we shouldn't lose the sight of fact, though, Mr. Speaker, that we have constituents to represent. The chairman of the Battle River School Division is also the Reform Party candidate in Wetaskiwin. And given the anti-union bias of the Reform Party, is the minister satisfied that the chairman of the board is acting in the best interests of his current constituents, or is there a political agenda, future political agenda, being played out at the expense of students?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is asking me to speculate about something I know nothing about. It would not be appropriate for me, and nor do I have any information about the political affiliation or aspirations as in the context of which he is speaking.
Calgary McKnight.
Mr. Speaker, in this year's budget, the provincial treasurer included a statement that some recent teacher settlements were too high. My question is to the Premier. Mr. Premier, is that why this government is refusing to take the impartial path of legislating binding arbitration in Battle River, hoping that if you let the two sides drag this out, the settlements will be lower?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the actual words from the provincial treasurer's speech, and I can't just recall at the moment, but let me say to the honourable, I would expect that she would support this as well, that we have responsibility by management and responsibility of labour to bargain in good faith, and that it is their responsibility. And whenever these negotiations get into difficulty, the Minister of Labour provides assistance with mediation, is prepared to help with arbitration. But let's always remind ourselves that the responsibility is with, in this case, the elected school boards and the teachers' union, and that we should, to the greatest extent possible, try and leave the responsibility with them, because it's their need to fulfill it in a way that best represents the people who put them there.
Mr. Speaker, my second question is also to the Premier. Even if the strike is settled quickly because the terms of settlement are agreed to, grade 12 students tell us that this year is already a write-off. And I'm wondering if the Premier would commit his government to assistance to these young people, special assistance, so they can complete this year.
Mr. Speaker, just in responding again to the honourable member's original question, I'm sure she did not want to mislead the House about what the provincial treasurer said, so I could quote for her. A few school boards have agreed to wage increases far above inflation. That was the statement that the provincial treasurer made. Now, with regards to the children in our schools, there's no question that I receive a report every day on the school strike, teacher strike, and that key concern for me and my government is the future and education of our young people. And when, Mr. Speaker, it appears that this third party, innocent party in this case, students, are being damaged and an emergency exists, then of course the government would fulfill its responsibility. But I again want to urge members that when you have a strike, yes, there are tensions and tempers and emotions get stressed, but I think it's important that we allow these negotiations to go on and reach a solution.
Deer Creek Crow's Nest, followed by Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker,
My question is to the Minister for Occupational Health and Safety in light of the recent coal mining tragedy in Nova Scotia, to which I'm sure all members of the Assembly and all Albertans offer their heartfelt sympathy and condolences to the family, relatives, friends, and the community affected. Mr. Speaker, my constituency has suffered many coal mining accidents in the past, including Canada's worst coal mining accident in 1914 in Hillcrest. And in fact, we were touched by this recent accident also, and our thoughts are with the people of Pictou County. Mr. Speaker, in view of the tragedy and concerns expressed over safety in underground coal mines, would the Minister advise the Assembly how regularly Alberta coal mines are inspected?
Mr. Speaker, it's indeed a sad day, and I wish to convey on behalf of myself and this government our condolences and sympathy to those people that have lost their family and friends in Grand Cache. Mr. Speaker, I might add that we have the mine at Grand Cache, the only underground mine in Alberta. The compliance with our legislation is working, and in many cases, the legislation or the compliance to the legislation exceeds our requirements. I would also like to add that we do a regularly monthly inspection at the mine, and this inspection is comprised of the employer and the employees working together. Hopefully, Mr. Speaker, they will keep on top of it, and we will not have the kind of disaster we have in Nova Scotia.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister. Would the Minister give consideration in light of this tragedy to review and to improve Alberta underground mining safety regulations?
Mr. Speaker, since the regulations have been changed from the Minister of Energy to Occupation, Health and Safety, there's been a number of meetings between labor and business, and up to now they haven't been able to work out their differences. But I understand, starting just recently, that labor and business have got together and they will be presenting changes to legislation in regard to underground mining in the province of Alberta, and I would encourage them to work as quickly as possible and get those regulations to us so we could implement them for the safety of all those workers in Grand Cache.
Edmonton Jasper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At public hearings throughout the province, Albertans said that the aspect of the proposed environmental legislation that they found to be the most disturbing aspect was the wide variety of discretionary powers that the Cabinet and the Minister retain under the legislation. Comments were made, according to the task force report, the government simply wants the flexibility to appear stringent while remaining lax. Now, in two drafts since the public expressed their view that politicians should be accountable and follow rules, but the legislation remains unchanged in this crucial respect. The cabinet ministers can exempt projects, classes of projects. There's no explicit environmental consideration, no duty to enforce standards. I would like to ask the Minister of the Environment why he would create public expectations and spend what I am told is in excess of $1 million on a hearing process if the government is not prepared to move on these, the most disturbing aspects of the legislation, according to Albertans.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would like to point out to the honourable member that through the public consultation process, 85% of the recommendations that were made to the Evans review panel were indeed accepted by this government, 85%. And I think, Mr. Speaker, for this member to question the input of Albertans, I think is an insult to these people who worked very, very hard to contribute to this bill.
Well, we just heard from another minister, it's not quantity, it's quality that matters, right? And it's exactly that public input. You got ministers all over here who ignore the public every day. The question is, why does he spend $1 million and have public hearings? He can ignore Albertans without going to all that trouble.
You know, here's the gentleman who says we don't consult, we don't talk to the people. So we go out and we talk to literally thousands of Albertans. We accept their input as good, honest input, but as a government we have a responsibility to sort out those recommendations that we're willing to accept and those that we're willing to reject. What I'm telling this honourable member is that we accepted 85% of those recommendations.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Family and Social Services last week stated that Alberta welfare families may not get to keep a new federal child benefit coming into effect next year. A review of that benefit shows that families totally dependent on social assistance won't be receiving any more money under the new program than they are currently getting. My questions, Mr. Speaker, are to the Premier. Will the Premier guarantee that social assistance families in Alberta won't be getting any less than they're receiving when the federal program begins in January? That is, that their family allowances won't be clawed back.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend has raised a matter that she says the Minister of Family and Social Services dealt with last week, so I would like to discuss the matter with him and have him respond to her.
Mr. Speaker, I know the Minister spoke to it in the House, but we didn't get any answers, and we need to know how this fits in with the Premier's family grid. Mr. Speaker, the best case scenario would give some working families a maximum increase of $9.62 a week. Will the Premier really allow the Minister to claw that back?
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend recalls what I've just said to her first question, that I would discuss the matter with the Minister and have him respond to her.
Overbar.
To the Minister of Transportation and Utilities, the Yellowhead Twinning Ceremony, which commences tomorrow, celebrates a major accomplishment. The realization of a promise that the Alberta government made in 1981. What is the total commitment of resources required for this significant project?
Good question.
Well, I heard a noise over there. I got Mr. Speaker to just say something. Back on December the 4th of 1989, someone opposite said, they won't build it. It can't be done by 1991.
Who said that?
If you want more of it, I'll read it. But, Mr. Speaker, the cost to date, and I do add that, the cost to date of the Yellowhead is $336 million. And there is additional monies, probably in the range of about $60 million, that will be used to final lift a portion of that road, as well as to begin, and only to begin, the costs of some of the overpasses that will have to be put in over the next 10 to 15 years.
Mr. Speaker, how does this project benefit Albertans economically, socially, and from a safety point of view?
Well,
in-depth questioning.
Mr. Speaker, one of the concerns of the citizens of this province and many of the tourists that were traveling what I'll call Old Highway 16 was a concern for safety. I think it was erroneously dubbed Death Highway some time ago, and as a result of that, a great deal of work and planning went into putting in place a safe crossing across the province of Alberta as part of the Yellowhead system that starts in Winnipeg and ends in both Prince George and Vancouver. We, incidentally, Mr. Speaker, are the first province to complete the twinning from basically one side to the other. And I say basically because it goes from Lloydminster to just west of Hinton, and then the wide two lanes goes down to the park boundaries narrow, a bit of funneling in process. And one of the concerns we've got for the future is what kind of planning will be done by the federal parks people as to the day of twinning that particular section, and not, we hope they'll do the planning now and not wait until it's needed.
Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are for the Minister of Labour. Given the fact that $7 million worth of taxpayer money was used to finance the manufacture of Flame Master furnaces, the fact that Horizon Village has now had to replace 50% of its furnaces due to leaking heat exchangers which leak carbon monoxide gas, and given the general responsibility of the government to ensure public safety, Will the Minister of Labour advise the Assembly as to the number of flame master furnaces with the problem heat exchanger which were sold in the province of Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, I don't have the exact number with me, but I can certainly try to get that information for the honourable member. And it has been brought to my attention that I had said in this House not long ago that there had been no reported defects in Alberta that related to flame master furnaces. And I was wrong about that too. So let me see what I can do here to clarify the record. There have been reported defects with Flame Master. The second fact is that Flame Master furnaces, there are far more of them than any other single manufactured variety of furnaces in Alberta. And the third fact is, as I am advised, that in terms of reported defects, the percentage among all of the Flame Master furnaces is not significantly different from the reported defects on all furnaces of another manufacturer. So what you can make of all of that is that I think, as we've been saying over and over again through various media outlets and through all the inspectors and through the suppliers of all of these furnaces, that one, if you have a Flame Master furnace, do make sure that it's checked. And number two, if you don't have a Flame Master furnace, do be sure that it's checked, because all furnaces should be checked on an annual basis. They all are subject to wear and tear, and an appropriate maintenance program by the owners is to have regular checks from their safety inspectors.
Mr. Speaker, it's not enough to tell Albertans to check their furnaces. The point is that private industry would be expected to give individual notification to the owners. And my question to the Minister is, will the Minister of Labour advise whether or not she will take steps to ensure that owners of the defective furnaces are notified of the problem individually?
Mr. Speaker, let me say also that the design and manufacturing criteria are something that the Canadian Gas Association sets standards for and then enforces. And they, in fact, are testing the design of the Flame Master again, having given it a clear bill of health, to be perfectly sure, or as sure as anybody can. The Department of Labor is responsible to ensure that the installation of the furnaces, when installed, at the moment of installation, are properly hooked up. Now, as to notice to individuals, I have a long list of notifications that we have done, and we issued a safety bulletin to gas suppliers and inspectors. We advised them of all of the information that we had at hand. We distribute a safety bulletin to all media outlets in the province, including radio and television stations and daily and weekly newspapers. And again, we gave the facts as we have them. We've done interviews with media outlets across the province, and in response to our safety bulletins, numerous radio stations, television stations, and newspapers have publicized the importance of regular inspection and maintenance. From that coverage, we've received literally dozens and dozens and dozens of inquiries from homeowners, so our sense is that indeed the message is getting out there. But certainly I welcome this opportunity as well for all of those in the House and through the media outlet question period that we can get the message out quite certainly.
Thank you, Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have here a document released by the Canadian Manufacturers Association Alberta Division, and it says, Mr. Speaker, that we have lost 5,000 jobs in the last 2 years in the manufacturing sector in this province. Given that the job losses in Alberta's manufacturing sector stand in stark contrast to job gains in manufacturing in the early 1980s, can this government and the Minister of Economic Development and Trade in particular explain why they continue defending the trade deal that Brian Mulroney signed with the United States and also advocate expanding it to Mexico.
Mr. Speaker, if one examines information that has been tabulated as it relates to our involvement with the free trade deal that has been put together, we look at our trade in 1988 before the free trade deal was initiated. Alberta exported some $9.1 billion worth of goods and commodities to the U.S. In 1991, we are now exporting some $11.7 billion worth of goods and services, an increase of some 28%. Mr. Speaker, we all recognize that the U.S. is one of our most important trading partners and also our most accessible market. And we want to make sure that our Alberta producers continue to have access to those in excess of some 200 million people so that we can continue to expand within the province of Alberta.
But I might point out that manufacturing in the East lost over 325,000 jobs in these last 2 years as well. And so clearly manufacturing is in a lot of trouble right across the country because of the free trade deal. They report that Alberta's manufacturing shipments dropped by 2.5% in 1991 over 1990. Now, while the shipment for some manufactured products such as pulp and paper went up, nonetheless other sectors like food, beverages, textiles, machinery were all down, in some cases substantially. Now, given the minister's obvious failure in this government's ad hoc policy to funding money losers in this province, why won't the minister submit his department's suggestion of a risk-sharing fund to public scrutiny, particularly in the Towards 2000 debate, Together debate in Calgary coming up at the end of the month?
Mr. Speaker, firstly, let me indicate to the honourable member that we look forward to discussing a broad range of topics at the conference of which the Premier is going to be chairing, because we want to receive the valuable input from all sectors of our society as it relates to the economic strengths of the province of Alberta. Secondly, the honourable member neglects to take into account a number of very important parts as it relates to our manufacturing strategy. We are in a North American and worldwide recession. This has an impact. We were also concerned as it related to interest rates. We were also concerned as it related to the dollar exchange value. They all have an interplay, and we are delighted that the dollar is leveling out and interest rates are going down. But more importantly, one only has to look at the budget that was introduced by this government, whereby we saw a reduction as it relates to the manufacturing and processing taxation levels by 1% so that we can have greater competitive stature within this province. And this is an area that we're going to pursue so that we can continue to provide jobs, 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 jobs for Albertans.
Very briefly, to repute some of the gobbledygook that was expounded by the honourable member, it should be pointed out of this 200 and some thousand job losses in the nation, Alberta, the only second province to show a net gain of 14,600 last year.
Order. Take your place. Order. Excuse me, honourable member, watch your language as well. Excuse me. Purported point of privilege. Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services, I believe, still additional comment or a comment to make about a word yesterday?
Speaker, having had a chance to peruse the blues, as Hansard still is not published, there was an inadvertent use of a word that was in the blues, Mr. Speaker, so I directed a letter to you, sent a letter to you earlier today with a copy to the Government House Leader and a copy to the member from West Loch Sturgeon. Perhaps, Mr. Speaker, I would like this in the Hansard, and I would just like to read the letter to Dear Mr. Speaker. The Blues of May 11, 1992, document name 12-325, contains an inadvertent use of a word by me. During the statement that I made under point of privilege, line 48 contains the word could. This sentence, as is intended, should have read, quote, this MLA has never told anyone that they must drop off their resumes to his constituency office, end quote. The word must was in the text that I read from, and I'd be pleased to provide a copy of my notes upon such a request, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Westlock Sturgeon listened to the comments yesterday and has been properly notified. The chair would point out that the copy of the letter the chair received yesterday did indicate that delivery had been made to the member for Westlock Sturgeon earlier in the day. However, the House Leader for the Liberal Party contacted me after question period and informed me that the notice did not arrive until 2:30. Chair has to point out by Standing Order 15 that the notice be given 2 hours before the commencement of the day, 2 hours notice for the Speaker, and then, if practicable, to the member that's involved in the matter of the dispute. Nevertheless, we held the matter over to today, and so now the Chair now recognizes Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, you got laryngitis. For a politician to try to protect himself with laryngitis is a little dangerous. It sounds like a Gilbert and Sullivan opera. So I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, if I run out of gas halfway through, I'll give the rest of it to you, and you just might read it to the House. But Mr. Speaker, first of all, I deny that I breached any of the privileges of the House or the honourable member for Barrhead for following reasons. First, let's take Erskine May, 21st edition, page 69, clearly under paragraph, quotation marks, what constitutes privilege, lists only the following as privileges of Houses and members. They are freedom from arrest and freedom of speech, or anything that affects the effective discharge of the collective functions of the House. Nothing I said in going after the honourable member would surely qualify under that. Let's move to another definition, our own order book, 15.1. Quote, breach of the rights of the Assembly or any member constitutes a question of privilege. I don't see how I breached the right of the member from Barrhead or the House there. Lastly, Beauchesne, Mr. Speaker, 6th edition, page 11, clearly states under paragraph 24, privileges of parliaments are rights which are absolutely necessary for the execution of its powers. End of quote. I don't know how I in any way, shape, or form stopped the member from Barrhead executing or the House their powers. The second, now that probably is enough in its own, just as far as the question of privilege. They made other charges about me making unusual statements. I don't know whether to go into that or not, Mr. Speaker, but it's rather intriguing that the minister was only after a weekend of large-scale revulsion of the minister's admitted practices in that question period that changed the minister's attitude of Thursday to one of Monday, where he said suddenly that he was being accused of many things. This is the same minister that was proud to admit the imputations and references I was making during question periods and say, in fact, that he was willing to refer to the ethics commissioner. Why would any minister or anybody who disagreed with statements of a questioner want to refer the thing to an ethics commissioner? I mean, the ethics commissioner decides what is right and wrong, not what is true and false. Surely the minister knows that. The question, I may ask a number of questions. The first one you may recall, if you're pursuing the blues, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Speaker, false accusations. I asked whether the minister, whether he was confirmed that he is now acting as an employment agency for the ticket printer, as the ministers want to do, much like a horse I used to have, put his tail up over his back and raced off in the opposite direction. Mr. Speaker never did answer the question. He talked about the virtues of moving the plant to Barrhead. It had nothing to do with the question. So, as you know, that day I was allowed 3. So the second question was whether they, those in, what the heck is it again here? I'm sorry. The second question was I remarked on the fact he didn't answer it, and would he go this far? The only reason he is asking that people drop off resumes at his office is to make sure they have the right political connections and the right political work background before he let them get on with the job. Surely, if that was wrong, all he had to say was no. Instead, he got very huffed up and puffed up and described about bringing things up our head and how important he was to the commerce of the town and so on. It was quite a long, disjointed rejoinder. Was broken up often with laughter and you getting up and stopping him, Mr. Speaker, from time to time. Either stopping him or stopping the laughter. I don't know which. I can't tell from reading the blues. Then we go on. The third question was whether or not he was willing to refer this practice to an ethics commissioner. And he said, of course. Well, why would anybody want to refer a legal question or a wrong question, an imputation to an ethics commissioner? It doesn't make sense. So obviously, of course, that something has happened over the weekend to make him decide that it is no longer a question of ethics here. It's a question of a right and or whether or not he's been accused. Now, I would like to conclude, Mr. Speaker, by saying that certainly there's an ancient rule of the House that you have to take a member at his word, or if he's not, but if he's now changed his mind from what he was bragging about last week, I have to accept his word and expect that last week's statements must have been uttered in a state of confusion. Likewise, Mr. Speaker, I submit that if he changes his mind again in the future, next week, and goes back to the original, I'll accept it again. I have always got to accept it as true. Thanks.
Is the chair to assume that you have now accepted the Honourable Minister's interpretation as delivered to you and this House yesterday? Is that a yes or a no? Do I assume from the chair that you now accept the Minister's interpretation as delivered to the House yesterday?
Question of anything the minister says is true. It's just that it changed so fast on me over the weekend that I couldn't keep up to it. Certainly, if he, the question is that I want to refer this practice to the ethics commissioner. He's agreed to that.
To be perfectly clear, does the member for Westlock Sturgeon now agree that what the minister said yesterday, which was, in essence, that he did not have such a practice as was alleged by the member for Westlock Sturgeon in his comments on Thursday and Friday, do you now agree that his is the accurate version? That's what the chair is trying to determine with you at the moment.
You asked a question.
I don't understand.
I'm trying to hear from that member.
No, I asked questions, and what I accepted as truth the answers he gave last week, and I accept as truth the answers he gives this week. If they conflict with each other, that's something for the media and everybody else to worry about. But as far as I'm concerned, whatever he takes, I always take as truth.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair believes that there was a far more gracious way to be able to handle this whole matter. Obviously, then, the Chair construes this as an apology on behalf of the member for Westlock Sturgeon, or an acceptance of... All right, thank you, Honourable Members. The Chair takes that groan as being non-acceptance. The Chair would now like to hear from Westlock Sturgeon what the Chair is supposed to believe. So, thank you, Honourable Members. The Chair...
The question is privilege, not whether they're statements or not. And I'd say that I have not infringed on anybody, on his privilege or the House's privilege. And it's, Mr. Speaker, I understand your job is to decide whether there is enough evidence to refer to a committee on privilege. This is all I understand. I didn't understand there was any question on the trial of the veracity of statements coming in here. I always accept yours and his and anybody's statements as being true.
The Honourable, thank you, Honourable members. The Chair will take the matter under advisement and try to work through what is a very convoluted statement to the House as made by Westlock Sturgeon. Orders of the day. Do you? Yes. Thank you. What's your point?